Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. I'm Eric, and we have Lucas as always.
Hey everyone.
Today is July 9th, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about the 22 Senate race in Ohio. We're going to be talking about the current politics in Ohio and where most of the counties lean today. Then we're going to talk about the likely candidates that are going to come out of the primaries and their likeliness of winning. And then we're going to be talking about the importance of this race.
And with that being said, let's get right into it. So I'll start off by talking about the state of Ohio in general. We have the 2020 map here. Obviously, the state of Ohio has trended way to the right in recent history. In 2008, Barack Obama won the state in a very large margin. 2012, it was more narrow. But in 2016 and 2020, both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden lost the state by 8 points, which is huge. So, what exactly contributed to this loss? A lot of it was because of the rural areas shifting more and more to the rights. Even though Joe Biden's considered a very good candidate, especially with suburban voters, he can't he couldn't win over the voters in the rural areas because Donald Trump does very well with these rural voters with his populist rhetoric. And we've been seeing Democrats get worse and worse and worse with the rural areas as time has gone on. And Ohio is no exception. Ohio is a pretty white and rural state, which has as history has gone on, it's hurt for many uh, Democrats. I've actually got a map open here. So as we can see, comparing 2016 to 2020, even though we saw some of the more urban towns move to the left, a lot of the rural towns or a lot of the rural counties trended to the right, and this helped balance each other out, which is why both Clinton and Biden lost the state by 8. So this brings us to the question of what chance does any Democrat have against any Republican in this state? So I'll give a brief background. The current senator is Rob Portman in this state. However, he has announced in the beginning of this year that he would not be running for re-election. Rob Portman's actually considered more of a moderate type of senator compared to other senators. I think he was part of that group of 12 that was negotiating that bipartisan infrastructure deal with President Biden. But he's more of a moderate candidate, and now the possible replacements for him are not so moderate. The current leading contender right now is Josh Mandel. He's running on a pretty far right pro-Trump campaign. He, in his announcement video, he even called Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, I believe he called him like a rhino, or saying that his leadership's not needed in Ohio or something like that. But he so far has garnered a lot of endorsements. He's also leading the polling. And I also want to point out that he's also trying to very much, what's the word? Pander the evangelical vote. So as you can see, he is very much trying to pander that evangelical vote, which could end up actually helping him eventually win this primary to face Tim Ryan. And speaking of Tim Ryan, I'll hand it over to Eric now.
So, Tim Ryan is probably the most favorable candidate that the Democrats can run in Ohio because one, he has gained some popularity and experience while serving in the House for 5 consecutive terms, and two, he is more of a moderate kind of candidate, unlike Josh Mandel. And in the state of Ohio, because it's so Republican, Tim Ryan has to kind of appeal to the more moderate, if not independent voters that do, potentially live in Ohio. So that kind of works out because he's a moderate himself. And, he is the only one even on the declared list according to the website. And, because a lot of people know that they don't have a chance against Tim Ryan. So he has the experience and he has kind of the political ideology that matches with the state. It's just that, as Lucas explained in the beginning of the video, Ohio is trending more and more to the right because like Trump in the 2016 and 2020 elections won in an overwhelming margin. And as Lucas also explained, it's just because of the rural areas. Democrats are losing control of the rural areas. And that's exactly what Tim Ryan is going to have to try to do, or he's going to have to exhaust the metropolitan vote in Cincinnati and Cleveland. But that's probably already been exhausted enough, but we'll get into that later in the video.
So how will Tim Ryan fare against the likely candidate, Josh Mandel, after all the primaries have been settled? Well, let's just put it in the sense that the Democrats as a whole in the nation should not be going after Ohio. I'll explain more about that later, but we do think that because of the established fact that Ohio is trending more and more to the right, no matter what candidate you put up here, whether it be Tim Ryan or even any other candidate, no matter how many endorsements he has, he'll probably possibly may get the margin down to something lower than what we've seen in recent years, but he probably will not be able to win back the state, no matter how ideal of a candidate he is, because of the way Ohio is, the counties of Ohio are leaning. So it's probably going to go into a likely margin somewhere in between 5 and 15 points. I would also assume somewhere in between 6 to 8 in the final, although it is still early to tell, and who knows what will happen in the November of 2022 and everything in between, but that's probably what's going to happen. And as I said in the beginning of this section, Democrats should be focusing on a lot of other races, such as Pennsylvania is a pretty critical one. New Hampshire is a pretty critical one if Sununu starts running. Wisconsin may be a critical one if Ron Johnson does not run. And a lot of other states as well. They have to make sure, that they solidify it. This race can kind of be considered like, I don't know, Amy McGrath running in Kentucky, or what's his name? The one from South Carolina.
Oh, Jamie Harrison.
Right. They would be like Jamie Harrison running in South Carolina. They would be getting a lot of funding, and they may get very close, but like nevertheless, just because the demographics are against them, they will not be able to win this race.
Exactly. And even though Josh Mandel is much worse of a candidate than Rob Portman, like Rob Portman was winning, I don't have it pulled up here, but he was winning his Senate elections by like 30 points. He was a, very good electoral candidate against Democrats. Even though Josh Mandel is much worse, I still think he would end up defeating Tim Ryan just because of how far right the state has moved, especially because of the rural areas. And by the way, this is our current Senate prediction, I believe. Actually, technically, we have Wisconsin as a toss-up, but Democrats shouldn't be focusing on Ohio. They've got other things to do, so we have this one as a likely. And with that being said, that's the end of the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you like our content, please subscribe. And we'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.